Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode on the Strategic Project Leader. Is anyone excited to be here as much as I am excited? It's going to be a great show today. First off, as you know, project management, it's all about helping you as leaders, or even as just ordinary finance people, whatever it is, execute and achieve your goals. We are the Strategic Project Leader podcast, where we help you leverage project management skills, but with a strategic focus to help you go further, faster in business and beyond. I am your host, Fola Alabi, the Strategic Project Leader. I'm all about leveraging all those skill sets, all of those great stuff to help you become the better leader that can not just only accelerate your careers, but also become that catalyst that drives organizational change and creates the life you've always craved for. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about, a topic that I guess a lot of people have been talking about, because in one shape or form, you're already going through a form of transformation. Is that right? Let me see a yes in the comments as well. Because when we think about projects and what we're trying to achieve every single time, it's all about change. But today we want to focus on organizational transformation. And what does that mean? It's all about how can we make things better? Is it processes? Is it strategy? Is it people? Whatever that is, it's a form of transformation. And I've got two great leaders with me in the house. My goodness, I want to get some hats as well. I want to bring up them one at a time as we dive into this actual topic. I need a sip of water. Okay, we have a leader, a friend, a strategist. She has actually done a lot of great stuff. With the Strategic Project Leader, we've collaborated as well. But the key for me is her drive to actually help and support the community. I love the fact that she calls herself a career and a work-life strategist. Can you just help me give it up as I bring up Tareka Wheeler? Tareka, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. How are you, Fola?
I am awesome. I want to see that energy, the one that we obviously radiate all the time. Let's get it going. My goodness, Tareka, how is Virginia this morning? She's coming live from Virginia. How are you doing?
Virginia is fine. It's a little wet. It rained all day yesterday, but today I think it's going to be a really nice day. And I'm starting off my day great because I'm on here live with you, so I can't wait.
Fantastic. And now I think we need a drum roll. I think when I met with this actual leader I'm bringing up right now, we just chatted as though we kind of knew each other forever. He has been, oh goodness, how do I start? Like the PMP, the PFMP, the S, everything. He's got the letters next to his name. But above all, he's been a PMO director. He's been a business analyst. He's actually done the Scrum piece. He's kind of touched different aspects of project benefit management. He's actually helped big organizations as well move and transform and get things done. He's mentored people within the university. Let me not even do too much. By the time he comes on live, he's going to just spill the tea, and then you're going to know why he's absolutely fantastic. Help me give it up for Dave Davis. Dave, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing just fine. How are things in your neck of the woods?
Oh my goodness, this is actually great. And how is Melville, Ohio doing this morning? What's the weather like today?
Well, I just looked outside a little bit ago. It's a typical Ohio April day. Wet, gray, and it'll be about 60 degrees later on today, but it's going to be rainy. So it's going fine.
Okay, it's better than snow. You don't want to know. I woke up 2 days ago and it's actually a bit snowy right here in Calgary. You don't want to know. And so when you talk about rain, you would definitely pick rain rather than having snow. But let me know in the comments where you're actually joining us from. Thank you, Joseph, for joining. Thank you, Jeremiah. I can see loads of people joining us. Oh, I've got someone from Ethiopia. Great to be here. But let's dive into it. Organizational transformation. And I'm actually going to be kicking it right off with Dave. When we think about transformation, what exactly should be the starting point? As first off, a project manager, you brought in to say there's a transformation that has to happen. Where do you start? Great to be let's dive into it. Organizational transformation. And I'm actually going to be starting. Just can you right off? Are we good? I think I can hear myself. Can you guys hear that?
I can hear you.
You
I
can hear me.
What you were saying before. That was a little replay.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering what's the replay about. Oh my goodness, Dave, we're waiting for you right now. So, Dave, we want to know what exactly is it that we need to start off with right now when we think about organizational transformation.
Current state. Where are we right at the moment? And you also need the vision. The transformation. Okay.
This is getting creepy. Hey, guys,
Can
I
you
don't know
hear
what's
me?
going on. I can hear you clearly, yeah, but I'm just wondering why we're getting that feedback. But I'm just going to mute. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
What exactly is it that we need to start off with right now when
Okay.
we think about organizational transformation?
First of all, do you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. I do
I
hear
can
that
hear you.
little,
Yeah, I'm getting the echo about.
but I do hear you really good, Dave.
Okay, we're hearing you good. I'm actually gonna just shut off. I don't know what's going on my end, but if everyone can still hear, then I think we can just keep going. Let's go. I wonder where that is. Okay, Dave, over to you.
Okay. We good? Okay. Get,
Just go, Dave. Just go.
okay, I'm going.
Just keep going.
Again, on
Go.
transformation. Yeah. We'll, yeah. With transformation, you need the vision. And then once you have the vision, you need to have alignment with the different members of your team, and you clearly need leadership commitment. And leadership needs to be committed in the same way pigs are committed. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. I think the thing is, I don't know what's going on in the background, but I can actually hear you. We're talking about transformation. I know there's an echo or whatever going on, but you've just said we start with the vision. We want to
Yep.
understand exactly what's needed. We need to crystallize that. We need to get the project managers to actually know what's happening. Let's go. Let's go.
Yep. And with that, you need to start defining your roadmap. Where do I want to get to? And then you look at where's my gap? And what's the biggest value? And change manager perspective, where do we need to go?
Okay. I think the key here is I don't know what the echo is. I'm just going to jump over to Tareka while we actually have this sorted out. As you know, with every project, they said whatever can go wrong will go wrong, but we're going to make it work in the end. Okay. The key is always crystallizing the vision, and the vision for us today is to get into digital transformation, people transformation, whatever that is, organizational transformation, and understand what are the tools that we need to be successful, not just only as project managers, as business leaders, as business analysts. Where do we start? And Davis actually said it starts with the vision, it starts with understanding that. And I want to dive into Tareka. Once we understand the vision of what needs to happen, that always comes in from the top down. Senior executives sit back and say, we've got a strategy we need to execute on. We know that probably we want to get into new markets, or we want to increase our market share, whatever that is. We understand the why behind the actual project that needs to start off. And then we say, what next? What needs to happen, Tareka? You being a leader, I know you've actually managed a lot of transformations as well with the government. What will be the next step that needs to happen with every form of transformation?
Yeah, that's a great. So I think the big thing that has to happen stage of transformation is actually have. Dave, I think you touched. Could you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you. I can hear you. Just let us know in the comments if you can hear, hear any glitch or anything. We actually just going to fix that. But I can hear, just keep going. If I can hear you, I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, fantastic. That roadmap that you actually know where you go step. So rather if it's if you're looking at talk about waterfall Agile today, know where we are going, roadmap, and how we're going to get there. And I think the difference is in different approach transformation in unique ways. To explore a little bit. As you noted, strategic communication project with a landscape. And here, each one of the projects is treated because the organization structure is the key stakeholders are different. So I can't treat the same. You're going to go through and approach transformation in a very different way. But I do think it's incredibly important that that roadmap is clear. And if we're talking about it from an agile perspective, the roadmap is clear, but we leave room for change. I think Dave talked a little bit about change management. That's a critical piece of that roadmap as well. And thinking about how you're actually going to transform and get everyone to be bought in and be vested in the actual change that's happening so that when you get to that ultimate goal, vision that we've talked about, that everyone has kind of gotten there together and understands the roadmap and the pathway we took to get there as well.
Yep. Hey, I'd like to add on that even a little bit higher level. First thing, winning the hearts and minds of the people involved. So as you're actually doing those pieces that you were talking about, defining current state, roadmap, et cetera, you have buy-in. You have people that want to be a part of it. There's a desire in order to meet that end objective. And that we're just not doing this for the sake of doing it because we saw a PowerPoint presentation that transformation's good. It's winning the hearts and minds and down to every level of the organization, including the supply chain. You need to make this can't be done in a vacuum all of a sudden one day, hey, we're transformed, Shazam. But there's a lot of people that seem to think that's kind of how it works. But you got to be ready by the hearts and mind, make everybody understand, hey, we know there's going to be some bumps in the road. We don't know what they are. We know that there's going to be some hard times, some difficult times, some hard decisions to be made. But we're in this as a team. We're in it together. And that's going to drive not only the change management piece, but the steps of projects, whatever you want to use term for your roadmap, whatever your deliverables are, because it's not just going to be projects. There's some other things in those deliverables, including training and that have to occur that, hey, we're going to do first, and if we need to regroup, we will regroup and we'll try and fix. But your contribution, only if we're all together will this work.
I think that's actually critical because with every change, everyone has to be on the same page. We talk about having a vision and actually running with that. And a lot of the reasons why we find in organizations where executives kind of have an idea of what's happening, mid-level managers have another idea, the foot soldiers actually right here wondering what's really going on. There's obviously a disconnect. And overall, starting right from that vision and connecting that to even understand the why behind it and ensuring that we can actually now even communicate the reasons why we even need to change in the first place. But I love the fact where you've obviously touched about winning the hearts of people because we talk about what is in it for me? What is in it for the organization? What is in it for all of us? And it could be as basic as we all need to have our jobs right in the next 5 years because, people are going to be taking over how we do stuff. It's as basic as that, but ensuring that that's crystal clear and we understand the why and how it affects, the finance team, how it's going to affect legal, how it's going to affect operations, how we're all going to come together because today we're talking about organizational transformation and it could be processes that actually need to change. It could actually be, systems, it could be how we do business, even new customers, but all of this has to be crystal clear. So I love the fact that we've actually addressed one, the vision. We're talking about a little bit about change management, but Dave, let's now get into it. So now we know that we need to change because of whatever reasons. Let's give us something hypothetical. Regulations are actually going to be changing now. And we know that, for instance, in 2030, we have to think about all sustainability stuff. And how can we pivot and how can we make things better? And it means that probably some roles are going to go. And we know we need to start changing how we do things. How do we come up now from the perspective of executive leadership? Because there are two sides to this. On the show, we want to help project managers that thinking differently, think beyond just your role and try to understand how the people ahead of you actually think and make decisions. So think about that now. So from that perspective, from senior leadership, what exactly, needs to be done to ensure that everyone understands the reasoning behind it so we can all coalesce together to get things done?
The first and most difficult piece is to eliminate roles. How do we fit roles into the new world? It's how do we have skills and competencies and adding value to the organization? Personally, I don't care if you call me a project manager, a scrum master, or a Jabba the Hutt. What are the skills and competencies I need to be able to have in order to meet those challenges in 2025, even 2023? I mean, skills and knowledges and competencies are constantly evolving. And so we need to be able to adjust getting those for having our staff teams trained and et cetera to be able to implement those with the challenges. And like I said, not worry about the role. That's one of the challenges that I see in all this transformation with the where do I fit in, what's in it for me. The first thing you need to think about is I may have a new job title, but I'm still going to be the basic role of bringing value to the organization and satisfying customers. So, any thoughts on that?
No, for sure. We're all coming back pretty quickly. I know, getting fixated. I know we talked about it even last week, where we spoke about showing up and forgetting about what your job description actually states. And I say, you are in there to make like your boss be successful, period. Just the same way with every transformation, right? You just need to say, now I am here, change is coming. How can I roll my sleeves up and help and make things happen? My title might change. My role may be different. I may be a project manager now, but maybe I may just be that next person to become maybe that operational lead that can help things become better. And that's where the critical skill actually comes in. Tareka, I'm going to come to you pretty quickly, because focusing on value all the time is an absolute ingredient to be successful. And being able to show up as that person that is the one that can, provide value is exactly what is needed. It doesn't matter what title you actually hold in the organization, but how can we move our mindset? Because you've been a great mindset strategist, Tareka, where we can move away from, yes, I've been brought into, and I've been told I was going to do XYZ, I'm going to be paid XYZ, but now I have to do all of these extra pieces. How can we shift our mindsets to create that abundance where we feel that, okay, I'm here to walk and add value? How can we get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I talk a lot about value-based performance, that we have to shift our thinking and our mindset to think value-based performance, meaning how I'm executing and showing up every day. My primary focus is, am I delivering and articulating value that is going to help with the operation or transformation within the organization? So one that just shows up and says, this is my job. I'm a project manager. I have these 10 bullet points on my job description. This is what I'm supposed to do. When you operate in that fixed thinking, right, or that fixed mindset, you will find yourself fixed and or out potentially of being able to even provide value and support within an organization. And you start to make yourself, pretty disposable. In this day and age, I think that we've got to be very versatile, but also just agile in the way that we are approaching work. And that old saying, like, go with the flow. You can absolutely be able to stand strong in your skill sets and your competencies and the things that that you can do. But I don't want that to weigh us down and restrict us to actually being so linear and not being willing to actually think differently and think, well, my performance needs to translate into that I'm bringing value to the ultimate strategic goal and strategic vision of this organization or of this project. Not that I'm just trying to come in and show how smart I am, how great I am. Here's all the great things that I can do. And if it's anything outside of that, I'm not going to do it. That is not how we make sure that we are bringing value to an organization or a project. And I think as leaders, right? And notice, I didn't say as a manager, as a director, but as leaders, we have, I think, a really unique place where we can help organizations transform because we get everyone shifting into value-based performance. The way I perform, I am tapping into understanding the value that I am delivering to the customer, to the sponsor, to the organization as a whole.
I think that's a very, very good point, because
Agreed.
a lot of the time we always think about, okay, solution. How can I outshine everyone else? How can I show up as the superstar? And fine, it's great to be great, but when you start thinking about the full connected maze, I know I did a video recently, I don't know if I've actually shared that, to understand the fact that we are all like puzzle pieces in this whole maze of organization. However, to fit in is one step. But for us to be able to turn an impact at the very top, we all need to come together as a team. We all need to start thinking differently. And with every transformation means that change is coming. And start understanding that change is a good thing. And when change comes, it's okay if, even if at times you may even have to lose your role. Seriously. But I want to tell you that every single time that happens, it's for something better. You're going to learn through the process. You're going to even become better and ready for something else. But Dave, I want to tap into, getting a little bit deeper. I know we've spoken about value-based and positioning. Now let's go back to like a typical project now. Where is it going to be like traditional waterfall? Is it traditional like agile way of doing transformations? Okay. Or is it like hybrid? But back to the theme of today, we're saying we want to help organizations transform really well. And now we know that we can analyze the vision. We're going to cascade that with change management. But as now a project leader coming in, what would be the steps? How do you manage this whole transformation to increase your level of success?
Okay, this is going to be a multi-part answer. First of all, it is a hybrid. Everything's a hybrid. But if I look at, quote, waterfall or whatever, predictive, that implies a pretty significant amount of upfront planning, roadmaps and things like that. But as we integrate, we're going to use tools and concepts that may be agile, maybe doesn't matter. I don't care. One that's going to be important, I'm going to talk about, is iterations. We're going to have, regardless, and even we've been doing iterations for years. I mean, back in the 80s, we call it rolling wave planning, right? It's still iteration, but what we need to do is make sure at that end of iterations, we do a couple things. One, we do retrospectives where we do true retrospective. We listen and we take chances, we take risk, and we need to encourage behaviors. We need to have this, quote, psychological safety, unquote, that people feel safe to be able to make suggestions that are off the wall or whatever. And we also need to encourage a behavior. I don't know how many are familiar with this, intelligent disobedience. And I'll give you the example for that. It's an example of a guide dog for a visually impaired person. Visually impaired person, guide dog, guides them, right? So if they're walking down a sidewalk that they've walked 20 times before, the guide dog sees that there's construction going on, that there's a few blocks of the sidewalk that aren't there. So they get in front of the visually impaired person and stop them from walking. And they're saying, come on, walk. But they're intelligent enough to know if they keep walking, they're going to have a problem. So that's where intelligent disobedience comes in, that we see something that we think could be and we can raise it up and we can resist, for lack of a better term. But we are encouraging behavior that uses intelligence that may challenge some things. And as leaders, like I said, go back to the retrospective, we listen. And if they're doing intelligent disobedience, I need to pay attention. And not immediately, hey, move it. I want to go. But like, why are you preventing? Why are you doing this? And how does it help us as a team meet our end objective? So there's a whole slew of things as far as how we interact with people. And we can use terms like emotional intelligence and all that, but it's still winning with people and encouraging something that may not be what we're most comfortable with. So our change needs to be, and we've been saying this for years, right? Let the team choose its way of work. Let the team be self-governing. And our job is to assist and reduce roadblocks. But we also need to listen and adjust our behaviors and things based on things that team recognizes. So
I know it's that continuous improvement loop. I love that fact. And I know I've read lots of articles about intelligent disobedience, but it takes having a group, a safe space where people are saying you can actually fail forward, where you can, you're open to do things and experiment and say, I think I'm really not clear about this, but I know that when I go to Dave, when I go to Tareka, they're going to listen to me and we're going to learn as we go. We're going to, pivot a little bit. But how can we really get organizations really into that space? Because for me, I am the no fluff. We know that the textbook says things. The reality is actually different because people are struggling. People are like, I want to show up at work. We're going through a major change. I want to help, but I'm like crippled because I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to do that. I'm not sure if I'm going to lose my job. I can't really air my opinions. How can our employees, project managers, or even project team members show up and say, I think I'm struggling here? How can you come up safely and get those things done? And I don't know, what are those, what are those strategies they can actually leverage, Tareka, to be able to like become more vulnerable when the space isn't really that conducive to do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, project managers, especially, but others are experiencing that every single day. There is this fear of speaking up. There is a fear of even self advocacy and being able to, see, what do you say? See something, say something. People see things, but there's a great pause to say something because they are concerned about the consequence that lies on the other side of saying something. And I think what we have to do is really execute our courage and our bravery, but it needs to be data informed courage and bravery. And here's what I mean by that. And it might be contrary to some thinking, but go with me here. It's one thing to be brave and have courage and to jump out there and say what we mean and mean what we say. And here's what we need to do. And here's how I believe we need to do it. And just, be super passionate about the way that you believe an organization should move forward. But what I think takes it to another level and that gets the ear of leaders, gets the ear of executives, is that you are data informed with your courage and your bravery. So it's one thing for me to say, I really believe that we need to go back and take a look at these requirements because this particular feature for this product, I don't believe it's going to serve the customer. Here's why. And it's the here's why that will actually begin to gain you some traction with those who you might have felt uncomfortable speaking out and advocating around because of the culture that's set. I think the other piece is that as we're talking about the organizations where it may be difficult to speak up, it may feel uncomfortable to fail forward. I think, Bola, as you said, is that we have to position ourselves to understand the culture that we are in. And this is where active listening comes in, where you're not just listening to what is said, but you're also listening to what is not being said. And if there are certain trends and conversations that you can pick out, then you can think strategically about how do I now show up as the business analyst, as the project manager, as the finance person, wherever you are operating within that project, how can I show up? Because I have hear what people are saying and what they are not saying. And that's at each level. That's from leadership all the way down to those who are supporting you in this effort. But I think we have to cultivate cultures, and especially as leaders. I love that we're talking about that intelligent disobedience. I also like to think about the positive disruptor, that we find ways to positively disrupt the world that we're in, but do so with data in your back pocket. Do so to come to the table with facts so that you can actually speak to and give some type of foundation or underpinning to the things that you are sharing in hopes that that's going to allow the organization to move forward and perhaps adopt your idea and even begin to shift culture. Dave, what are your thoughts about that?
I agree completely. So just add a little bit more. The data, telling stories with data is going to be so important. And then spending time talking to the team, seeing do they agree. And another good example I've had to kind of tie this together, I've had members of the team where I usually reach out first via chat. We use Teams in our environment. So team, yeah, you got a few minutes to talk. 'Cause nobody answers the phone, it seems, anymore when you call them. But I've gone to some team members and said, hey, you've mentioned something here that's pretty good. I'd like to see between you and I'm going to paraphrase what I think you're saying. And I want to take this story that we've got, put some data around it and start sharing it. So as you mentioned about fail early and that is not a fail early, that we're along the way and we decide that this may not be the best way to go. I think it's Edison who said, I've never failed. I've just found 99 ways it don't work. So it's that mindset, that culture again, that can only be proven or through behavior. We need to behave. We quote, walk the talk, and there's a million cliches, and that needs to be up and down the organization. We shouldn't just be once a month, maybe having 10 minutes at a all staff meeting where we hear, oh, you guys are all doing great and wonderful. We love you, and go away. especially the team leader or project manager, whatever, needs to be in there day in, day out, not just with status meetings. You need to work on helping the team grow, continuous learning. Again, iteration, setting our goals, what's our best tools for the goal in order to meet this iteration, being willing to sacrifice some short-term gains for some longer-term deliverables. And I'll use that. It's a kind of a discipline agile thing, but if we determine our goal, say we're doing something with amortization, changing it, and we realize our biggest problem is we don't truly understand amortization and salvage value.
Yeah,
So, hey, you know what? The next 2 weeks, we're not going to spend anything on our stories and delivering something. We're going to bring in experts. We're going to bring in people from the business side and help us understand what is our business need. So I
mhm,
may not get 40 story points during this iteration. I may only get 10, but you know what? 3 iterations down, I'm delivering 80 story points instead of
right.
60. So that mentality, that mindset is going to be difficult to enhance and implement because back to your point for Tareka and also Fola, because do I have support from my upper management? Am I going to be pulled in? Hey, you didn't meet your story points. Boom, boom, boom. Bad, 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 bad. Yeah. But what about my story point over 6 months? Did I increase or decrease? And do I have that safety in order to do that and take those risks? Business as usual, our velocity must increase X% per iteration if we look at an agile isn't going to be able to adapt to what we need to have. And we need to make sure what we measure applies to what we're truly delivering for value. I
That's
mean,
right.
you can't deliver, you measure a good project manager on if you send out meeting invites, at least 7 days before the meeting. Yeah, it's a great administrative task to measure, but we're not measuring our value.
Mm.
So we need, from a holistic point of view, as an organization, encourage the value, encourage the continuous learning, measure our performance based on how are we delivering value, not how are we administering quote project management unquote task. And we can use the term business analyst or developer or whatever in that. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm a firm believer in metrics, great believer in metrics, but metrics shouldn't drive what we're doing. Metrics should measure what we're doing, and our behaviors is what we should be encouraging, our positive behaviors.
100%. And, when we think about the overall path, I know you've been talking a lot around the agile piece for people who are probably not familiar with that. It's more about how can we iteratively develop anything. So rather than thinking about the Big Bang approach with a typical waterfall, you're going to look at iterate different sprints, and you say, okay, fine, for this transformation, for instance, we want to just get X amount of functionalities out in the next 2 weeks. And so what David was trying to show was at times it could be a roadblock where during the next 2 weeks, because of what you've actually learned, you're going to say, we're going to pause, let's get experts in and let's review what we've done. Let's get a bit of learning in there. Although we not be able to deliver what we're meant to for this actual sprint, but we know that because of the learning, we can then get a deeper and a bigger output as we go down the line. But I want us to get into artificial intelligence a little bit. Now, we've thought about transformation overall. The goal here, anyway, is to make something better. We said there should be a vision,
Right.
right? We know what the goals are. We have a change management plan. We know that a team's actually involved. But when we're thinking about all of this, how does technology now play into any form of transformation that we have? Because now, before you think about organizational change or new processes, you're gonna have to think, can AI kind of do this for us now? Or you think about a new product. Do we need to eliminate this? So how does artificial intelligence actually play out, especially for people who are just like, I think we're going to be losing our jobs or whatever. So, Dave, I really wanted to throw some light into that. I know you're doing some work with university. Now,
Oh, a lot.
artificial intelligence, what
Yeah.
do we need to think about today with organizational change?
Okay. The one preface all this, we also have to remember we're not just developing software. We're across all the parts of the organization, and so we are going to have to adapt to different things. And we use the umbrella term agile, but we may be doing Scrum Agile in one piece. We may be doing TTD in another, and we may be doing build our own process because we like it. Where AI is going to start to fit in is along those work streams, and we need to start thinking not as much AI, probably more along the lines of self-learning, and that these things are going to be learning and adapting. And how are we going to be able to recognize that what they're learning and adapting truly meets our value equation? Yes, I think that there are going to be tools here fairly soon that are going to be able to put out a roadmap. But it's how do you give it that information and input in order to make it a good roadmap? So we're going to be getting much more into a mode of how do we communicate with this AI engine, and how do we understand what it's looking for, and how do we set it up to be able to look for the right things and to be able to adapt to what it's learning, and that we adapt to its learning. So I see AI as another work stream in our whole knowledge and learning aspect. And it's going to be bringing in some streams we hadn't even thought of before. And I'm not sure how we're going to all adapt. I mean, just in this year alone, the stuff I've seen with chat, you know, AI chat GPT or whatever, I've seen colleges and universities, high schools, and trying to ban its use of being able to do term papers and stuff like that. I mean, specific thing, but how do you measure that? So it's going to be interesting, challenging things that we need to be adaptable to, and all these other things we talked about with people. But I clearly see it being in there, and I know there's already organizations that are out there selling, for lack of a better term, how using this tool or this bot is going to be able to improve your ROI. And how do we make sure that that's true and that we're grooming it properly? And grooming may not be the right term. Actually, grooming is a bad term. But AI is clearly there. And yes, is it going to modify our jobs? Yes. Is it going to reply or change them? Probably not. I don't think it's going to eliminate them, but it's clearly going to expand your set of skills and competencies you're going to need in order to be an effective, distinguish whatever term role it becomes. And
I know. That's a good point. I know because we think about technology. Technology has always been an accelerant over the years.
mhm.
It's we think about computers. We think about how it's revolutionized the way we send data. We think about the internet. We think about the dot-com bubble. Like everyone's like, oh, what's going to happen to the world? Is everything going to change? And even with AI, and I want to get your take on that, Tareka, as well, with organizational transformations. How exactly can we leverage this? Is it going to be a boost, or do you think it's going to be a catastrophe? What is your take, when it comes to technology and transforming organizations and the way we do work?
Technological advances can be great, but they can also present a lot of challenges. And I think businesses and organizations are experiencing that right now. Where are there appropriate spaces for the insertion of generative AI, and where are we not ready for that yet? So, I think a simple example of this is think about the relationships that we are building in organizations. And I think, Dave noted this at the beginning, this fact that, we've got to understand and get everybody on board and build those relationships, and have everyone, in the same place. Okay. AI can't replace emotional intelligence. AI can't replace some of the critical conversations that need to be had. I should not be utilizing Jounce or ChatGPT to say, I am a project manager. Help me with 5 things I should say to my stakeholders about the next sprint. I don't believe that AI has a place there, because I think that that is a certain level of thinking and relationship building, that what I say to Dave on my project team, based on our relationship, based on his needs, the requirements that he has for this project, I don't believe AI is going to be in a place to insert themselves there. And I think a lot of companies and organizations jumped into AI a bit quickly and started to utilize it in facets that are not necessarily, I won't say appropriate, but that we're just not ready. I do think that it is an accelerator. I think that there's opportunities to leverage AI to accelerate the work that we are doing, but I don't think it's in a place to replace certain key elements, and especially relationships and the way that we are interacting with people on our teams. So that's one thing. The second thing I think around AI, where there's an incredible amount of opportunity, and this is kind of noting to what Dave was also saying as well, is I actually think it will allow us to hone in on some of those other skill sets and competencies that we set aside because we feel that there's just no capacity. So I think that AI is really going to help as a capacity builder so that your SMEs and your experts and such that are on the team actually can alleviate some of that capacity that AI and other technological advances can support and replace so that you can hone in on some of those other strategic thinking and innovative drivers that are not necessarily perhaps going to come from AI. So that's kind of my take on it. I think it's so new. It's changing and evolving every single day, which I think is incredible to watch that and to manage a project around AI. I think about, as you know, I work in government contracting within the federal government here in the U.S. and AI. There's an entire executive order around AI and what that looks like, and even we look at like Department of Defense and how they are trying to leverage AI in a lot of our defense infrastructure. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because there are just certain things right now that AI cannot do. So I think anyone who is in a project leader role or an organizational leader role, there's a place for it. But I think you've got to have conversations. And before you insert it as a part of a transformation that you're doing, we all need to be clear around what it can and cannot do at this time. And I think that would be incredibly helpful when we're looking at organization transformation.
That just means it's actually time for Project Lifestyle. Oh my goodness. We're talking about transformations and we've touched about goals. We've talked about vision. We've talked about teams. And it's like the perfect time to think about how can we think about this also in our personal lives? Every single day we're going through change. Every single day things are happening. But for me, I want to give you the skills for you to amplify your success. And we want to think about how can we now transform and even be better as project managers, even in our personal life as well. And let's think about really one. And I want to just hone in when it comes to artificial intelligence, right? How can we leverage these tools when we transform? Today, I see a lot of powered apps and things happening. But now, do you know that you can get personalized recommendations? Like if you want to like buy stuff for products, services, and all of that, even preferences. Oh my goodness, AI can actually be your best friend. So today I want to think about how can we leverage this as we transform our lives to become more efficient, be more productive, and overall well-being. So think about this, personalized recommendations. So look at this because I thought your life is a project, right? And so as you want to, you want to buy stuff, you want to think about properties, you want to invest, go in and search and see, like use tools like ChatGPT. There's so many tools out there and leverage that also in your personal life. What about health and wellness? AI can actually now be used and leveraged when it comes to diagnosing and treating illnesses and diseases, without a doubt. You can go to your doctor and say, I've got all of these things going on, happening at the moment, but you can also go in and type in some of your symptoms and say, Guy, what's going on? I think I'm feeling this way. My doctor said that. And you even go back armed with some information to your doctor and say, have we kind of explored all of this? Because we have to become advocates for ourselves. As we transform and as we create something better for ourselves, you need to think about the tools that you can actually leverage. And that's one way you can think about that. Personalized recommendations, health and wellness, and I want to talk about financial management.
Well, I'll jump in here.
I know we're coming. Just hold on a little bit. Let me just land a little bit. We're coming. And then with all of this, for me, it's all about the positives, right? How can we think about that? How can we get ideas? How can we filter things and say, yes, with this, we can leverage that, but AI can now be used to also help you. Because for instance, I tell people, I have never paid $1 on an interest on any credit card, but I use my credit card, for instance, to travel over the world. I get air miles. There's so many strategies that you can actually leverage to be more financially more prudent and leverage credit to become better. So as we look at this overall project as our life, you can leverage these tools to say, what credit cards at the moment are giving the lowest interest, or what kind of benefits can I get? So think about that as you transform. Financial management is another thing that you can actually think about. Even at home, we talk about learning and education. How are you leveraging that?
Yep.
Learnings are great, but it's also a tool. For me, I look at it as how can you use the tools around you and how can you be better? I know Dave wants to jump in right there. Okay, Dave, so tell me quickly, what is it you want to tell us? Okay.
Okay. Let me jump my model. Convergent, divergent thinking.
Okay.
Divergent thinking is where you get a bunch of ideas. I think AI can help you do that. I mean, you can go into chatbot GPT today and ask, and it gives you ideas. So divergent, you come up with a whole bunch of ideas. Convergent means you put those ideas together and what ones you get to. To get from one to the other, we have what we call the groan zone.
Yeah.
Painful decisions as to which one of these are going to help that we do to move forward. I think AI is right there even today to help that divergent thinking and come up, to use an agile term, with our backlog. So we got a backlog of ideas. And then our convergent, which are the ones most valuable that we're going to pursue, and getting through that groan zone. So I think AI is in a position today to help generate those ideas in the divergent thinking. It's like having a conversation with you. I do a lot of work, presentations and things. And I admit, I go to chatbot GP a lot and say, give me 5 bullet points about such and such. And you know what? Sometimes it'll bring up an item I really hadn't thought about because it just wasn't in my immediate thought space. But I get those ideas. So then it's like, okay, which one of these do I really need to go through that groan zone that I need to pursue and spend time on? So I see it being right now very much a contributor of ideas that maybe, God, cliche alert, is thinking outside of your box, unquote, to say, where do these all fit in? And then go through that groan zone to what are the ones of value I'm going to pursue.
The 100% is just like prioritization, right? So with everything, you're going to get loads of ideas you need to be able to like filter through, but now you have a great starting point. I say, why start from just basic stuff? You can start from experience, right? The tools that are out there that you can actually leverage to be better. And this is the part I want to know. If you've got any questions, let me know in the chats as well. So you've got a chance for us to answer one quick question from the audience before we actually wrap up. But before we actually finish that, I want to bring my crew right on stage. I want to know, what are your main final words when we think about organizational transformation and how we transform our lives overall? What exactly do you feel is that number one secret sauce that our audience need to know to walk away with today?
Yeah, I'll jump in there just to think about two things. One, when you're thinking about transformation, I want you to actually start with the end in mind. What are you actually trying to transform to or into, right? I love the word transformation. It reminds me of Transformers. I have boys. Well, I have one girl, but I have boys, but it reminds me of Transformers. You want to transform into something else, and you have to be very clear that the entire organization gets on board with what that end form now looks like, right? It's like modeling clay. I start with a little tube of Play-Doh, and then I'm modeling it into and transforming it into something else. And it takes molding and smoothing and sculpting. But what are we all agreeing that we're going to get to? That is where transformation, to me, is so important that we understand. And then the second piece of that is that do not assume that everybody absorbs and accepts change at the same rate. I think a lot of times when people say, "Oh, I don't want to do this," we take them as like, why are they being so difficult? Why don't they understand this is the best way to go? Everyone accepts and engages with change differently. And so, to be a real change agent, a real change catalyst, you have to understand that everybody is coming into this transformation at a different level. Sure, they may say they were okay with the end and what we said was the end in mind, but their process, their way of thinking, how it's going to change and disrupt their world is going to be different from the next person and from the next. So, one, make sure you've got a good end in mind and everybody is agreeable to that. And two, recognize that everyone's path, their thinking, their actions, their steps, their acceptance of change is going to be at a different rate. But at the end of the day, as a good strategic project leader, you can get them to the final and end of transformation.
Fantastic. I think that's great. Dave, what have you got to add to that?
I think it all comes down to values alignment. as long as our values are the same. And values to me, really simplistic, is what's the difference between right and wrong? This behavior, is it right or wrong behavior? If we don't have a values alignment, and that's where I go back to the winning hearts and minds at the beginning, it's not going to succeed. So all the things that you mentioned about Tareka, and I agree with you completely, especially the in-the-mind, the COVID and all that. But our values it needs to be our quote compass, North Star, whatever, that keeps us, our guardrails, that keeps us focused on that and moving forward. And when you have some sort of a values misalignment or violation of values, that's serious things that you need to deal with. Why are our values not in sync? And that's where you come into those difficult decisions that you may have to cut loose of something or whatever. And I'll finish with one final point in all this: sustainability. We need to make sure that through that thread we have something sustainable, that when all is said and done, it's not really the product that's on there. It's the values. Are we delivering value? Are we behaving the way we think we should behave? And guess what? The next iteration's coming, and there's some new technology that's, for all I know, the teleporter from Star Trek may be working in 2040. I don't know. I'd be foolish to say I know what's going to be there in 2025, but it's going to be something out there.
No, for sure. Without a doubt, like when we talk about live projects, organization is all about change. Everything is going to change. Where we are today is definitely going to be different where we're going to be tomorrow, a year from now, or even 10 years from now. And if you're actually not changing, then there's a problem. And so we need to be able to embrace it. But as we've all said today, is all about think about the end. What we're trying to do, how can we ensure that we can all coalesce together to achieve that one goal? And how can that happen is when everyone understands what the value is, how it's going to impact me, how it's going to impact our customers, the why behind everything. It's all about the goal. And if we all come together and build this whole thing together, we're going to take ownership. We're going to love to actually use whatever that is. And we're going to be part of that actual change. I want to say thank you so much to my guests for being here. I want to thank Dave Davis. I want to thank Tareka Wheeler. Goodness, it's been great. I can't even believe that how time actually flew so quick. And with all the tech and stuff that happened at the start, it was actually great after all. It's been a great session. And as Dave's actually said, for you to connect, please go and find Dave on LinkedIn. Do you want to say what your connection name is, Dave Davis?
DAVL,
Fantastic. Dave Davis on LinkedIn for all the good stuff. He shares content regularly as well. And Tareka, how can people find you?
Sure, you can connect with me on Instagram. My LinkedIn, of course, is Tareka Wheeler PMP, but you can also connect with me on Instagram, professional_DNA. I'd love to be able to connect and with you, continue this conversation and talk all things career and work life.
Fantastic. As I always say, within every transformation, you are the best transformation that you could actually ever happen. Because you are your life's project manager. Make your life's project count. It takes investing in you. It takes being diligent. It takes practicing every single piece of what you've actually learned today. Embrace continuous learning. Be open to value. Be open to learn. Be open to share. Because you've actually got this. Everything that you're waiting for lies on the other side of execution. But when you take the step you definitely want, it is possible. I did it. I am your host. It's always a great time to spend my Saturdays with you. My goodness, you know how to reach me. Fola Alabi on all social media platforms. Let's continue the conversation as well. My goodness, let me know what you're going to be doing and one action item that you are going to be running away with. One action item that you are going to be taking action, because at the end of the day, it would have been a total waste of time if you don't take action. Take action today. Make it count. And I cannot wait to actually celebrate all of your successes. But for now, make sure you do one. I think that's one key thing. Share this with a friend, share this with a colleague, and I cannot wait to see you same time next week as we share all the strategies for you to leader.